The first time I heard a song by the Grateful Dead, I was in high school. And the first time I went to a Grateful Dead show, it was right after college. I went with my friends Dave and Mike. And it was amazing. I had the best time. And I immediately identified as a Deadhead. This was my identity. I went to shows all the time. 6 shows at Madison Square Garden in a week was not a problem for me. It might have been for my employers, but not for me. I had huge boxes full of bootleg cassette tapes, which was the currency of Deadheads. I wore tie-dye like it was a fashion statement. And I joined this incredible community with no requirements for membership except a love of the music and an absolute commitment to chasing joy. And it went on like that for a bunch of years until 1995. Jerry Garcia died, and I was bereft, and I was adrift. There were spin-off bands like Further and The Dead, and there were still, we didn't have tapes anymore. It was like digital downloads and stuff. But it was not quite the same. Something was missing. Like, are you a Deadhead if there's no Grateful Dead? I don't know. Goes on again until 2003. Andrew and I are celebrating our 10th anniversary, and as a gift, I get him a pair of tickets for us to go see Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band at Rentschler Field. And this is really a gift. Like, this is his jam, not mine. I am for real the +1 on this whole thing. I know a few of the hits, like Born to Run and Thunder Road and Glory Days. And the band and Bruce had just dropped an album called The Rising, and I checked it out, right? I checked it out from the Simsbury Library on CD, and I listened to it in the car like I was doing homework. And I liked it enough, but again, this was Andrew's jam. And we go that night to the show. It's 2 days before our anniversary, and we go to the show, and we have floor seats, and the band takes the stage, and something happens. Like, Max hits the drums, and I feel it in my bones, and Bruce sings the words, and I feel it in my heart. And the crowd feeds this love to the band that eats it up and magnifies it and feeds it back to the crowd, and I feel it in my soul. I am, for the next 3 hours of my life, as Bruce would say, transformed by the almighty power of rock and roll. And I step aboard this train from which there is no getting off. For the next 17 years, when my particular circus comes to town, I am there. And eventually, Andrew has had enough of my shenanigans. He opts out, and I go with my sister Lisa, who's already a fan, and sometimes I take my son Jonah, who is going to become a fan, whether he likes it or not, and we go here in Hartford, and we go to Gillette, and I go down to where Lisa lives in Baltimore and Washington, and I go to the shows, and then 2020 happens. And it's COVID, and we are all locked in at home, and nobody's having any fun. And Bruce is locked in at home too. And he takes to Sirius XM, which is like, this is where my car is tuned, Channel 20, E Street Radio. Like it or not, this is what you're gonna listen to, except for when it's that, you know that call-in show when it's like Elliot from Queens calling in, then I go listen to the Grateful Dead channel. Otherwise, you're gonna be listening to E Street Radio. And Bruce, during lockdown, he starts doing these shows, these radio shows where he's DJing and playing all this music and singing and telling stories. And Bruce promises us that this is all gonna be over one day. And when it is, he is going to throw the biggest party we have ever seen, and we are going to go with 50,000 of our friends, and we are going to be back to normal, and we're going to feel that joy again. And I call Lisa, and I say, I have this idea. When this is done, we're going to know, because the band's going to be back out on tour, and I say, we're going to go see Bruce and the band in Europe. Like, this is a thing that the crazy fans do. They fly from the US, they go see the band in Europe, and I say, I don't even care where, you can pick. And Lisa, who is a hardcore Outlander fan, picks Edinburgh, and we're gonna go to Scotland. And we wait. And finally the tour dates get announced, and we set our alarms. We buy these tickets at 3 a.m. with our friends Chris and Mike. The show's gonna be a year down the road. And the time passes, and finally we are on the plane, we're going to Scotland. We're on this trip that we have been dreaming of and waiting for, and I have all these ideas about what it's gonna be, and we get there and the weather is unbelievable. It's May in Scotland and it's like 72 degrees and sunny. It's supposed to be like cloudy and yucky all the time, and the girls in Scotland are out in the park like in their bikinis because as far as they're concerned, this is high summer. And we are having the best time, and finally it's Tuesday, it's the day of the show, and we are at Murrayfield Stadium. It's early, we get there in time to get our shirts and get our drinks, and we walk around and we're taking pictures, and we check out where our seats are gonna be, and we go to this like tunnel, which is where you would walk onto the pitch. There's like 10,000 people gonna be standing on the pitch. And I have this idea, and I say to the usher, like, I make friends with him first. I go like, you know, how are you? And we take a picture, and what's your name? Which coincidentally is Andrew. And I leverage this information to build a relationship with him. And I say, Andrew, what would it take for you to kind of look that way while I make my way out onto the pitch? And he's like, sorry, no can do. Which is kind of a bummer, but okay. And we take our seats, and soon enough the house lights go down, and the band takes the stage. Max and Roy and Gary and Jake and finally Bruce. And the band kicks into high gear with Promised Land and No Surrender, and it's amazing. But one thing is not quite right. Everybody around me, I'm up and dancing, and everybody around me is sitting. Because apparently this is the vibe in Europe. It's not the vibe here in the US. And I am afraid that any second somebody's gonna tap me on the shoulder and be like, excuse me, ma'am, you gotta sit down. And the anxiety about this is really bumming me out. And I look down to where my friend Andrew, the guard, is at the tunnel, and I see this huge flow of two-way traffic going back and forth. Like, there is no way that Andrew and his cronies are checking wristbands. And I think about it for a second, because like, I have been to many shows. Like, I'm not good at everything in this world. I can't balance a checkbook, but I can sure as shit move around in your stadium, no problem. And I see what's happening, and I look at Lisa, and I say, I want to go down to the floor. Come with me. And she's there with our friends Mike and Chris, and she says, no, I like it where we are. I like to be able to see the screens. And I say, but are you going to be mad if I go? Like, we've waited a year for this. And she gives me this incredible gift, and she says, nah, man, have a good time. You do you. And I leave her my jacket, and I take my phone so we don't lose each other, and I walk right out through Andrew's tunnel and onto the floor. And I make my way up toward the front until the people are too closely packed together for me to move anymore. And it's amazing. I feel the music in my bones and my heart and my soul, and I know that COVID is over, and the joy that I've been looking for is there again. And a man behind me grabs me and spins me as we're dancing toward the end of the show, and I'm grinning and I'm laughing and I'm so happy. The show's almost over. The last song on this tour is a song called I'll See You in My Dreams. No more band, no more electrics, just Bruce and an acoustic guitar standing on stage, and the refrain of the song is, "For death is not the end, I'll see you in my dreams, my friend, I'll see you in my dreams." And after all that's happened all these years, I am just overcome. And I am standing and weeping and shaking, and I feel a hand just reach out and touch between my shoulder blades, making these gentle circles. I don't even know who it is. I imagine it must be the man who danced with me, but I don't know. And the show's over, and Bruce reminds us that he loves us, and the house lights come on, and I turn around, and it is that man, and he's there with his friend, and I thank him for the good time we've had together, and I ask him for a favor. I say, "Can I ask you for a favor, friend?" And he says, "What do you need?" And I say, the thing is, I snuck down onto the floor, and I don't have one of those Bruce Springsteen and E Street Band wristbands that everybody has, but I would like one to put on my bulletin board at home. May I have yours, please? And he looks at his friend, and his friend looks at him, and they start to laugh, and I say, "What's so funny?" And he goes, "Nope." And I see their bare wrists, and I realize they've done the same. Like, we are all just scofflaws in this place, having this moment together. And that is exactly as it was meant to be. I spent the evening finding the joy that I'm always chasing. The same joy that I feel in this room when I stand at the mic and I'm here with all of you. And in this moment, I know that I am just going to keep going and chasing it as hard and as often and for as long as I can. Thank you.